Master and Margarita. Yes, you should have known that eventually we will speak about this book. Welcome. This is Check That Book, and we are here to get familiar with the most disturbing books ever written. And today, surprise, surprise, we have a masterpiece, dare I say, a misunderstood masterpiece, in my, and not just my opinion. It is a notorious book by Mikhail Bulgakov that has so much mystery to it and to its creation that we cannot possibly cover in one video. And as a matter of fact, I am not going to be covering it in its entirety, albeit this happens to be one of my favorite books of all time, disturbing or no disturbing. For now, though, as promised and as advertised, I'm going to give you an introduction. This is a very well translated version by Hugh Applin and an autograph page from the Master and Margarita. Here you go. I mean, some exclusive shit. Master and Margarita is a controversial novel. It's full of mysticism and allegories that not many people tend to grasp, especially on the first read. And it is a tricky book, I'm not going to lie. A mysterious gentleman appears in Moscow in the Soviet Union, during the Soviet Union period, who claims to be a magician of sort, but actually is someone whom we all know very well. Some of us too well, especially these days. Yes, Volan's character, if you know, you know. Volan's character has always intrigued me. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil him for you. Read the book. It's a classic that if you are even remotely interested in subjects of occult, mystery, the metaphysical, witchcraft even, if you're interested in that dark gothic kind of stuff, yes, you absolutely must read Master and Margarita. However, be prepared to sit through some, I'm never going to call them boring pages, because I liked this book. It happens to be one of my favorites. No, but I can see why some people found it boring, because if you're there only for the supernatural segment, then yeah, it might be a bit difficult, because this book has more than one storyline and timeline, and it touches upon pretty much everything. Your beliefs, both personal and impersonal. Yeah, impersonal beliefs, that sounds interesting. Read the book. Read it. What I love the most about it is that, besides the story around Voland's character, who the heck is Voland, and why is he there? Why did he come to Moscow? And why is he doing what he's doing? And how? And a couple of characters whom he encounters along the way. Yeah, it's basically his story, but not really. We have this parallel story of Margarita, the lady with whom a person called Master falls in love with. I mean, technically they fall in love with each other. There's frequent drawbacks to the ancient times where we have this Jesus timeline, or let's call him Hanosri, that's how he's called in the book. But he's a clear parallel to Jesus Christ. We witness the crucifixion, the initial capture of him, the very interesting philosophical conversations with the captor, and the eventual execution. This is probably the most, how to put it, misunderstood part, because it's so easy to see that it's just a parallel and retelling of the biblical tale. But again, I read this book 3 times, and oh wow, the more I read into it, especially the parts with Hanosri, the more I realize what it's actually about, or what it might be about, because we will never have the opportunity to ask the author himself. Was he trying to mock religion? Hopefully not. Well, to me, it didn't seem so. It didn't. On the contrary, from the very beginning, in the book, when we follow our mysterious, havoc-wreaking magician in Moscow, in the very beginning, we have a very, very intense and gripping conversation about religion. And that kind of warms you up for what's there to come, what's going to happen. And when you see those, read those setbacks in time, you don't feel as unprepared, if you know what I mean. Does your fate really depend on you entirely? Do you even belong to yourself? There is a lot of philosophical discussions in this book, both in modern day Moscow, which is set in Soviet Moscow, but in this book it is modern day Moscow, and ancient period. So periods are very far from one another, people are very far from one another, but the questions they ask are the same. And well, again, after reading this, you will ask yourself certain questions. You will ask yourself, and you might not find the answer. Actually, you don't find the answer, and that is disturbing in its own special way. But yes, disturbing in the sense of any graphic shit? Well, no, not really. You guys, I found it very modest, actually, and I was surprised seeing it on the list of recommended disturbing books. However, yes, as you can see, it's a very interesting cover. Very you guys, masters of art, if you know what the style is called, yeah, write it down in the comments section. I mean, I don't know anything about it, but it looks kind of cool. This one was published in 1966, so yeah, this is not your Pushkin. Far from it, very far from it, but we already covered one Russian author, Vladimir Nabokov, and in my opinion, Nabokov's Lolita is more disturbing than this one, because Lolita, you remember what it was about, right? If you don't, check it out. It's out there on my channel. We've talked about Lolita and how disturbing it really is. Classy, but not cool. This one is more, it's gripping and it's thought-provoking, which a good book should be, in my opinion. As for the disturbing factors, well, as you can see by my look today, I tried to be a bit more classy than I usually am, and with a touch of weirdness, like Azazello. If you know who Azazello is, then disturbing scenes, yes, I mean, it has a few, especially when it comes to the magician. Scenes with Woland are both Scary, but not like terrifyingly scary. It's not Peter Blatty's Exorcist. It's Master and Margarita. It's first and foremost a classic with a very beautiful language, a lot of deep philosophical themes that not many people might grasp. Quiet, subtle, but very strong at the same time. Strong realization that you are not in charge pretty much of anything, really. The only thing you're in charge of is what's happening right now, this very instant. And even that is questionable. So yeah, it raises questions that might have never been there before in your head, and I like a good thought-provoking book that wakes you up. It does. It really does. So if you're interested in the concoction of genres, because it kind of is, I'm trying not to be very descriptive, and I'm definitely not spoiling it for you. Hope I'm not. I'm not telling you about anything in particular that's going on here. I just stated the main subjects, and take my word for it, it's worth a read. If nothing of that appeals to you and you just want an interesting story without any super deep meaning to it and without having to dissect it, then yeah, maybe stay clear of this one for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like disturbing content, please consider giving this video a boost in the form of an erect thumb and a subscription, perhaps. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Take very good care of yourselves and your loved ones. And I will see you soon. Bye. Goodbye.
Once upon a time.
But this is the question that's troubling me. If there is no God, then who, one wonders, is directing human life and all order on earth in general? Man himself is directing it, Bisdomni hastened to reply angrily to this, to be honest, not very clear question. I'm sorry, responded the stranger mildly. In order to be directing things, it is necessary, for all that, to have a definite plan for a certain, at least reasonably respectable period of time. Permit me to ask you, then, how can man be directing things if he not only lacks the capacity to draw up any sort of plan, even for a laughably short period of time, well, let's say for 1,000 years or so, but cannot even vouch for his own tomorrow? And indeed, here the stranger turned to Berlioz. Imagine that you, for example, start directing things, managing both other people and yourself, generally, so to speak, getting a taste for it, and suddenly you have a lung sarcoma. The foreigner smiled sweetly, as if the idea of a lung sarcoma gave him pleasure. Yes, a sarcoma. Narrowing his eyes like a cat, he repeated the sonorous word. And there's an end to your directing. No one's fates, apart from your own, interests you anymore. Your family begin lying to you. Sensing something wrong, you rush to learned doctors, then to charlatans, and sometimes to fortune tellers too. Like the first and the second, so the third too is completely pointless. You realize it yourself. And it all ends tragically. The man who just recently supposed he was directing something turns out suddenly to be lying motionless in a wooden box, and those around him realizing there's no more use whatsoever in the man lying there, burn him up in a stove.